larger than life. He'll give you strife. He's Todd. He's tall, he's mean. He's a labeling machine. He's Todd. Rides a motorbike. He'll tell you what it's like. He's Todd. Don't know what he'll say. He'll scare the kids away. He's Todd. He's Todd.
Hey, welcome. So, a little bit of a different background today. Obviously, I'm Trailer Trash Toddy, and so I'll be your host today. But this is the first actual show from the road, and so as you can see behind me, I mean, I went to great extenses and expenses to set my backdrop here. But we're coming live from Escondido, California today. In fact, here, let's do that. So Kate is making me a nice big 8x8 backdrop, but right now this is my backdrop here. So this is the 39 footer. Here is our patio. Over here is actually my Wi-Fi. And then there's stuff growing in the background. I still don't know what's growing. I have an idea. Maybe we can barter it sometime with the folks back behind me. But the cool thing, hey, Chuck, how are you? So the cool thing about this is having an open patio is you never know what we're going to get over here. We just had a helicopter fly over. You might see a horse or two walk by. If the cops show up, they always like to come by and say hi. Big fans of the show. So anyway, thanks for showing up again. And so this is kind of the second episode of being, with the road show. 2 weeks ago, I came to you live from Foxwoods Casino. And it's been a hell of a couple of weeks. I ended up after 2.5 years of sequestering myself. I ended up with the Rona. And so first time, don't want it again. I just started feeling good about 2 days ago, and unfortunately, my wife fell victim to it. So she's actually on the other side of the door here, taking it easy. So anyway, that's nasty stuff. And so, folks, we're not done with it yet. Be careful out there. Trust me. So anyway, next week, actually, the road show goes to Phoenix, Arizona. And I have a golf tournament, my favorite golf tournament, hosted by Paul Norris with Gray Bar out there. And I man a hole. I bring my, well, I can make a joke about that. Anyway, bring my big tent, and it's always a good time. So anybody in the Phoenix area next Friday, come join me. Live appearance at the golf tournament out there. So much appreciated. So one of the things I wanted to share with you this morning is I have a very handsome guest, and I'll introduce him in a minute here. But one of the things that I wanted to show you, Kate, I'm gonna share my screen here. Is I don't know how this happens, but I think it's happening on purpose now. But let me show you what I'm talking about. Whoops, I turned my camera off. Wrong button. I don't want to do that. So here it is right here. All right. Kate, throw this up there when you can. Oh, it's not doing it. No, we're gonna let's try one more time with that, Kate. There we go. Put that up there. Look at Mr. Handsome on the left, and look at that schmuck on the right. I am convinced they do that on purpose. And I'm done fighting it. I really am. I'm done fighting it. You know what? As long as my guests look better than me, you know what? Then that's fine. So anyway, I thought that was kind of funny. So shout out to this guy, and I picked, you know who I'm talking about. Obviously, that's not the truth. But anyway, Sam being my brother, he's always out there somewhere. So anyway, on with the show. So as you know, we're continuing bringing on guests. This is the first time I've actually brought on a contractor, and one of the reasons, and contractor integrator, I should say, one of the reasons I did is because Scott Meier is going to be my guest. He'll be on in just a minute. Kate will put him on the screen, but he does a lot with data centers, and we all love data centers, and data centers are, they're popping up everywhere. They're changing dramatically from, when I used to, construct data centers, design, build data centers. And we'll talk to Scott a little bit about that. And then we'll talk a little bit about labeling and how labeling really relates inside of a data center where you've got just, millions and millions of dollars worth of equipment that always has to be on 24/7. And this is where labeling is very, very crucial. You want to use the one and done theory. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But let's bring Scott Meier on. Scott, Kate will put you on there. Scott, how are you? Let's give you a little clap in the background there.
Hi, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. I've got my haircut since that picture. I was trying to kind of channel my inner Todd. So,
well, you know what? I put a hat on only because I haven't shaved since I got the old Rona. I did shave this morning, but this is out of control, just completely out of control. So I figured
you have to use a comb in the morning.
Well, you know what? What is that? I heard of these things, combs and brushes. I used to use them, but anyway. So Scott is coming to us from Denver. Actually, Kate's in Denver, and so Scott's coming live from Denver. But one of the interesting things is that Scott, you have a local affiliation here and not far from where I am. And so well, you know what? I'm going to let you tell the folks out there a little bit about you. I know you've been in the industry a very long time. You've seen data centers, probably IBM type A cable, up until where it is right now. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. But as far as your local affiliation, again, not too far up the road, why don't you tell the folks out there what you do and how you are associated with the local branch out here.
Sounds good. Yeah. So I'm with Paladin Technologies, and we are actually based up in Vancouver, Canada. However, our U.S. offices are based out of the La Jolla, Poway area. So we have an office in La Jolla, and then we actually have more of an operational office out in Poway. So, i.e., San Diego.
Big office.
Yeah. I love coming out there. Believe me, it's always nice, especially when it's cold here and it's snowing.
It's funny because before the show, Scott and I were talking about the changes happening in Colorado, and I'll say the same thing I told Scott. It's because all these idiot Californians are now going to ruin Colorado, and this is coming from somebody who lives in California. I'm not a Californian by any reason, but I'm here, for other reasons. But nonetheless, is that it's funny to hear somebody from Colorado coming out here, and specifically, I love it when it does get cold up there, and it does. I spent many years up in Fort Collins, and so I don't blame you whatsoever. But be prepared for $7 a gallon gas here.
It's not cheap. It's not cheap.
So we need to sell more printers at the end of the day, so I can fill my gas tank. And I know that's weird, but anyway. So data centers specific, and I know that your title encompasses data center, and so tell us a little bit about what you do in the data center world. And chances are it's not limited to, or it may be limited to data centers, but tell us a little bit about what you do for Paladin in regards to data centers.
So specifically, I'm in that space. I do some other, TI work and those kind of things. And obviously Paladin as a company, we do everything, all the different verticals, but my focus is in the data center space. I've been focused in that space for probably about 6 years now, just solely in that area. I started way back in the industry in '97, and I've kind of been in and out of it. As you know, sometimes when you leave, you just get sucked right back into this thing, right? So, gotten pulled back in, but the data center space is fun, right? It's changing, it's growing, it's something new every day. So it's been really interesting. But essentially, I'm just trying to help Paladin grow our business in that space by going out and working with folks and trying to get them to better understand how we can help them from a implementation and integration standpoint within their space, whether it's a colo or a hyperscale or what have you.
Well, this, you talk about data centers changing throughout the years. And, I started in the business in 96. God, we're old, aren't we? You still look
Yeah,
good for your age,
yeah.
man. You really do.
Hence
But
the short hair, right?
well, this industry takes a toll. I'm 32, and that would put you at 31, Scott. But
Exactly.
the industry definitely takes a toll. Here, I'm gonna give myself a little laugh on that one. So anyway, from the reason why I wanted a contractor slash integrator on is that, me being a former contractor from the design build side for data centers and just overall, campus environment, infrastructure and OSP, things have definitely changed, and I don't know how many times we go into a data center environment and the technology is always changing, obviously. And that means the connectivity is always changing, from again, I go back to, your token ring, if you will, and the old bus system and IBM Type 1, which I still think is a fantastic cable, some of the best out there. But again, things have changed, and you're trying to put more stuff into smaller spaces, right? At the end of the day,
Right.
and so every inch counts inside of a data center. In fact, they budget based upon square footage and the amount, and so it's a whole science with these data centers. So I thought it'd be interesting to bring on somebody who still does work in that environment and has seen the changes. And I know we've talked about hyperscale data centers in the past on the show. Obviously, that's growing in popularity. All right. From your perspective, and you really focusing on this even in the past 6 or 7 years, and a lot has changed. I mean, what are you seeing out there, and as far as any new trends, any new asks from your customers? What are you hearing, what are you seeing, and how are you helping your customers out with that?
I think the biggest thing is, speed to market for them, is they really are trying to figure out how do we get these to market for either their customer or themselves as soon as possible, and do it in a fashion that still meets their expectations in terms of the actual implementation or delivery, right? There's the peripheral things like sustainability, obviously bandwidth is increasing. So to your point, how can you pack more stuff into a smaller space, which then takes the cabling aspect and turns it into a power and heating and cooling thing, right? Because that's really the major cost in the data center space. So trying to figure out and help them in terms of getting that to the market faster is a big focus. Everybody, including us, are trying to figure out ways, how do you prefab things so that they're as ready as possible when they get to the space, and all you have to do is as much plug and play as you used to be, where it all used to be, termination in the field way back in the day, right? So the pre-term's a big thing, that kind of thing. So you're starting to see those kind of things, I think, really take hold in this space.
Well, you know what? I like that you brought up the subject of preterm versus, again, the old days where, all the racks and cabinets were shipped in and then either built or placed,
Yeah.
and then, populated. And then obviously, the infrastructure goes into place with the routing and the termination, and whether it's, a raised floor environment, above head. I mean, everything was built from scratch. And so some of my customers, actually, I'd say more than ever before, are doing that prefab. And so I did some work for nice little story here that involves one of our printers. But I did some work for Google years ago, and Google was coming out with Google Fiber, which
Yeah.
it didn't go very far, right? But it was fun working with these guys. And what they would do is that they would send an order to a distributor partner in Dallas. They would go ahead and basically build these cabinets and racks to spec.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah.
And then what they would do is Google would purchase one of our PTE 550s, and they would include that right before they wrapped it and
Yep.
put it on a pallet. They would include a 550. And then the cool thing is that the guy in Austin would basically send that particular contractor integrator a database, and they get the database on the phone, and that was the labeling schematic for that particular rack or
Yeah.
cabinet. He then would connect that to our PTE 550, and the whole database was there. So again, everything, including the labeling these days, we're seeing a lot more prefabrication, whether it be built, on your site, built by, I know some of our distribution partners, I had a call earlier this week, they're doing a lot of prefab and then getting these things out there. So the prefab, I'm glad you brought that up, because it certainly isn't like the way we used to do it with the design build. And so that portion that you said, I didn't even think about, as far as, get up and running and go to market as soon as possible. So that certainly helps.
Yeah, and to your point on the labeling, I mean, they're even labeling that package, right? Those labels can come in certain colors so that you know that when that thing arrives, if it's orange, it goes to this space, or it's this type of delivery, kind of a thing. So I know one of the things you want to chat about a little bit is the labeling and the asset management, but that's part of the process, right?
Yeah. So from your perspective and looking down the road, and I know this is kind of a crapshoot, obviously, but where do you see, based upon current trends and maybe with the chit chat out there, do you see more of the hyperscale? Do you see, I mean, what are you seeing from your perspective, being, design and implementation, and installation? What do you see a couple of years down the road as far as what's in store for data centers?
If I don't have the hard data, but it feels like to me we're seeing more of it driven by the hyperscalers. They're taking the big spaces, whether they're doing it themselves, and then typically what I've seen happen is they'll go into a certain area and build their clusters, and then kind of the colos will follow around them, because they want also that additional space, that big hall within a colo facility, so that they can have redundancy or what have you, that's close by. And then the colos are taking advantage of that, obviously, and then building to their smaller customers around that aspect. So, personally, I still see the hyperscales driving the market quite a bit, but you are starting to see more and more people that are, the big customers out there that may have wanted to do their own data center in the past, going to the colo facilities to outsource, because they're starting to understand the costs of that, how fast technology changes, why that's important to them to be able to move a little bit quicker with the quote unquote experts in the field versus themselves potentially handling that. Plus, it becomes a CapEx OpEx type decision
Right.
at that point too. Yeah.
Yeah, I work with a little bit with IO out in Phoenix,
Mhm.
and then Switch is actually a brother customer, and it's amazing, and I still get excited going into these colo locations, and I can tell you, most of them out there I see are just the works of art. They're just beautiful pieces. And again, that CapEx OpEx is a big point. And these days where, you're trying to get everything you can for your dollar, sometimes that makes a lot of sense. So in regards to there's things changing with labeling too, and there's no better place to talk about labeling and ANSI TIA EIA 606D now than a data center, because it really encompasses everything, and you've still got your patch panels and your cable labels and your IP addresses and your general labeling and blah, 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 blah. But one of the things that I'm really trying to preach out there, along with following 606D guidelines, whether it be from a prefab stage, which you're still going to need to label it, or whether it be on the spot, is asset management. And again, it's crucial that these sites stay up and running 24/7. Any downtime, they've got all that figured out to the minute,
Right.
as far as what the potential ramifications could be to their customers. So again, identification, correct identification, and then one step further, asset management. And one of the things that I preach a lot, Scott, is barcoding, and specifically QR codes. I started this with Facebook up in Menlo Park years ago, where they had 6 lines of information for every flag. And number one, you're outside of a locked cage, and they only open that cage for certain reasons. But if you're trying to identify something out there, reading 4 lines of information is horrible. So what we did is we took that information and we put it on a QR code. And specifically, they didn't want just an average QR code. They wanted an Aztec code, which is a variation. But long story short is that they can actually put more lines of information on that particular cable or router or hub or patch panel or whatever onto a QR code. And the interesting thing about QR codes is that you can really use them anywhere. And so as I do these shows about barcoding and, asset management, it really rings true inside of a data center where you have millions and millions of dollars, worth of equipment. And to your point, the heating and cooling, where is this duct system going to? Where does it snake? Where does it, you don't know. Yeah. So I think as the more that we sing, obviously labeling, you want to label it right, you one and done, but the more information that you can have on there is crucial. And sometimes within that small little space, you only have so much alphanumeric you can. So whether it be row locations, rack locations, it doesn't really matter. You can still put alphanumeric on there, but I highly recommend using some type of 2D barcodes on anything, really on anything. And so if there's any questions, I've got a couple of episodes that I've done on that, but any questions, please reach out and ask about asset management, because again, really in a data center, before they lock the cages and the doors, and you've got one shot to do it. You don't want labels falling off.
Yeah.
You want, right. And we've all been there. You've been there. I've been there. Right. We've all seen it. So, depending upon the environment, and keep in mind, inside of a data center, and there's one particular in Phoenix, I'm not going to mention who it is, but we're kind of redoing their labeling right now. Big, huge operation is that they have in the center of this data center what they call the hot aisle. And it just runs hotter than hell. But not only that, they've got constant fans and air blowing on this. So imagine the labels in this environment that's going through, a very hot environment. And then you have air and other the things that could basically take the labels off. And one of the problems they're having is that the labels are coming off. And now they're not Brother labels. Right. Brother's going in there to replace that manufacturer that is falling off. And so, I think you'd resonate, Scott, with the labeling. Number one, it's crucial inside of a data center. Number two is that
for sure,
I think you would attest, do it right the first time, be one and done. Right. Because when you guys.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, now let's talk from a contractor side. When you guys go back in there to do any type of troubleshooting, you want to be able to walk up to, I don't care what it is, right? Yeah. And identify it. And, hopefully that's correct. If it's not correct, hey, you've got a bunch of trouble on your hands.
Right. Right. And, or there's nothing there because it's fell off, or you can't read it, or big problem.
Yeah. So the whole idea of this show, obviously, I work for Brother IS division, industrial solutions, and we sell labels, and we have some really good labels, but the whole point of this, and again from your side, is to have folks out there hear it from an individual like yourself, and from an organization how important it is, specifically inside a data center, to make sure that the labeling is done right, and to attest to what you just said, it doesn't fall off. And so that's where we come in as a partner, to help not only the data centers themselves, but to help the customers in that colo potentially, to basically make sure that it's 24/7 operation. And really, the only time that you should go in there, if a port goes down, whatever the case, you have to be able to identify that correctly, or else you're in a world of crap. You really are.
Yeah.
So
A quick question maybe for you is, one of the things you asked about earlier, what some of the changes you've seen, DSIM, right, has changed and come a long way. How integrated are you guys with the DSIM folks out there to make sure that that's cohesive and working together and everything matches, so to speak?
Well, first I want to state this was not a loaded question, and you and I did not talk about this previously.
We did not.
Okay. All right. And so, you know what, that is perfect timing, because we just went into a collaboration with Sunbird, and Sunbird is one of the larger ones out there. And the whole idea behind this collaboration, Scott, is that, when they're doing their design, build, and asset management, they actually have on their software, it's a tab for labeling. All right. Now, it doesn't do a damn thing, or it hasn't done a damn thing in the past. So what we did is essentially, when they pull that information, it could be IP addresses, it could be cable labels, it could be patch panel labels, it could be anything, right? When they pull that information into a CSV, what they can do is, we can actually bring that into a Android or iOS, connect this device to a plethora of several printers that we have, and basically print what they pulled from that DSIM software. And so my job is to continue with the collaborations. The DSIM we have with Sunbird collaboration works like a champ, works like a damn champ, because again, anything that you can bring into a CSV can be printed to one of our printers. And so you don't have to manually do it. The work is already done inside of that DSIM software. It's just a matter of retracting, sending that tech an email, or basically putting that onto your computer, tethering it to one of our printers and printing. So going forward, one of the things that I'm tasked to do is develop these collaborations with other DSIM companies. And it really is, as long as they can pull anything from a CSV, it can be printed. So now that, you know what, that was not a loaded question. I'm glad you brought that up.
No.
And there is an episode out there. So I think it was, I can't even tell you what freaking episode it was. Anyway, 8 or 10 episodes. Kate, if you know what the episode, maybe throw it on the screen. But there is an episode that I brought on Sunbird, and we talked about this collaboration. So if anyone needs any information, please let me know. And Scott, I'll send you a little bit of information as well. But I look forward to building other relationships with DSIM companies out there, because again, as you mentioned, you don't want, and the customer doesn't want anything to get in the way. So if you could take these moving pieces and parts and combine them to get the work done quicker and more efficient, right, then that's exactly what you're looking for, and what your customer's looking for as well. So great question. I like you, man. I like you.
just trying to help where I can.
Yeah. So anyway, I want to thank you profusely for getting on here this morning. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Either one of these times we're going to have to get together. I'll buy you lunch or dinner. And
sure.
Whether you're out here or whether I'm up in Denver, I know I'm coming up there in July. I'm going camping at Jellystone Park, and yes, folks, there is a Jellystone Park in Estes Park. So maybe while I'm up there, I'll have a chance if you're there to come say hi. But I want to thank you profusely for getting on and talking data centers this morning, and letting me talk a little bit about the importance of labeling. You have any parting shots for me, Scott? Good
No,
ones.
we appreciate the opportunity as well. Like you said, it's your kind of your first contractor on here, so it's always nice to be right out of the gate. If we can ever be of service to anyone out there looking for implementation for your data center space, we'd love to have the opportunity to chat with you. And we are North American, so we go up to the Canadian provinces as well. So
If
appreciate
you,
it. Thank you very much. It was fun.
yeah, yeah,
You always get
absolutely.
a little nervous about these things, but wondering
With
how
old
you're going to
hat.
look on the screen, right?
Well, you know what? I told my wife this morning, I still get a little bit nervous, and I've done 55 of these things, and only because I got to hold back the cussing. I cuss like a
Well,
sailor, and yeah,
it
you know
does
what?
say
And
BS, so you kind of almost
well,
expect it.
it's pushing the envelope, and you never know when HR or legal's watching.
That is
So that's
very
the one
true.
thing I always have to tell myself, because otherwise, I'm cussing like a sailor, and but that's really the only thing about this. So we're going to show your contact information. If you haven't or you don't know a lot about Paladin, I did a little bit of research. Take a look at all the locations. They're growing rapidly. But I specifically, Scott, we're going to put up your information after this. If you folks have any questions regarding Paladin, and how they go to market, or questions about, Scott's hair, or whatever the case, please reach out. So with that being said, I want to thank you, Scott,
Thank
very
you.
much. Kate, let's go ahead and show Scott's contact information. There he is. Told you, man. What a handsome guy. I don't know. I kind of grow the hair back, Scott, because I'm jealous. I wish I had the opportunity to do mine. So anyway, there's Scott Meier, Manager, Data Center Solutions. There's his contact information. I look forward to actually having more contractors on, more integrators on, to kind of get their take on the business. And this show is starting to become more of a business centric show. And I threw a little bit in about the labeling out there. So that's what they pay me to do. So anyway, I look forward to having more guests like that on. Let's see, Jellystone. Kelly, you love Jellystone. I'm looking at some of the notes out here. The Sunbird episode, Kate put that up there. Take a look at that Sunbird episode. So May 12th, coming up May 12th, we have UCL Swift. And I've known these guys for a very long time, and we're going to talk a little fiber, and we're going to talk connectivity and fusion splicing and all sorts of good stuff. And I think we're going to talk a little bit more about heat shrink in this space, specifically with fusion splicing and how to utilize heat shrink without shrinking it. Stay tuned for that. It should be very interesting. And again, using QR codes, all right, for asset management, because again, that's a very important component of the infrastructure is the fiber. So TBA, what the hell is that? TBA, I don't know. Whoever they are, I look forward to talking to TBA. We're talking about, I know it's to be announced, Kate. Jeez. All right. Kate says COVID's got to my brain. Anyway, so we got a few ideas. Actually, me and Kate have gone through a ton of ideas. It's just actually putting them into place right now. We've got enough material to last us another 2 years. Oh boy. John, good to see you. Thank you. So anyway, here's how to contact us. 10:31, man. I'm a minute over. So here's how to contact us. Oh, wait. QR code. Hey, if you haven't already, we actually got enough users to have our own URL on YouTube. And so if you haven't subscribed to YouTube yet, please, I'd love to have you. There's a ton of information out there. And again, it's labeling, it's industry information, but it's all archived. And we're trying to move everything over, all 50-something episodes. But take a picture of the screen. Go onto YouTube. Be my friend. Do you call them friends on YouTube? Is that Facebook? Or maybe I'm going back to MySpace. Anyway, that just shows you how freaking old I am. So here's how to contact us. I'm out on the West Coast most of the time. All right. It changes now constantly with my mobile office. So most of the times I'm coming west of the Mississippi. I'll let everyone know ahead of time where I'm going to be. Again, this week I'm in Escondido, California. Here's how to contact me. If you got any questions, comments, concerns, or if you need some bad advice, man, call me anytime. Mr. Jamie Brookover hails out of Virginia Beach. We got Mr. Dan Cobb. He's somewhere in Wisconsin. Mr. Bruce Page, who is also a recent member of the COVID Club. And I saw him the other day. He looks horrible. I mean, he's not a good looking man to begin with, but he looked horrible the other day. So my thoughts are with you, Bruce. Try and get healthy. Mr. Rob Dawkins out in North Carolina, and Mr. Craig Robinson coming from Bradenton, Florida, out in the Sarasota area. So with that being said, I've gone on and on and on, but I want to thank Scott again. I think it was a fantastic show. It's really good to hear industry insights and updates and what's going on out there. And most of the folks on the show that watch the show, are kind of in the know, but for those who aren't, Scott was a great guest today. With that being said, it is 10:33, 3 minutes over. And so I want to thank everyone else out there for showing up. All right. What is this sound? I can't hear these damn sounds. I think that may have been a laugh or a clap or I don't know. But anyway, thank you very much. I appreciate everyone stopping by and spending 34 minutes with me today. We'll see you in a couple of weeks with UCL Swift. Stay healthy out there. Thanks.